Welcome back. Time now for Eye on Africa. I'm Tom Burgess-Watson, and these are the top stories we're following for you. A deadly shootout. Security forces in Egypt's Assiut province kill 6 militants with suspected links to the Islamic State group. We'll have the latest on that from our Cairo correspondent. Facing justice ahead of his trial later on this month, the leader of the Al-Hoceima protest group in Morocco's Rif region goes before a judge. And traffic jams and traffic accidents, not on the roads, but off the coastline of Senegal. Coming up, an exclusive report on the dangers faced by local fishermen. Hi there, we're going to begin in Egypt, where the Interior Ministry says that 6 militants have been killed by the security forces during the course of today, following on from a firefight at the jihadist hideout in central Assiut province. The authorities say they found a bomb, automatic weapons and military uniforms in their raid of the premises, and that those killed were likely supporters of the Islamic State group. Well, this follows an upsurge in jihadist violence in the country. On Friday, 23 soldiers were killed in twin suicide car bombings in the Sinai region. Our Cairo correspondent, Alexandre Bouchanti, has the latest.
Today's raid is part of a bigger scheme by the police force and all the security forces that began, in fact, after the bombing of 2 Coptic churches on Palm Sunday that killed more than 40 people. From that day, police is searching for jihadists, mainly in Upper Egypt, from Minya, Assiut, in the center of Egypt, but going further south. It's not the first time they discover camps for training jihadists. So that's what they are working on. They are also working on organization linked to the Muslim Brotherhood in Cairo and around Cairo and in the Delta. So that's the big bulk of the problem now, is that these people of the Nile Valley now are claiming that they are part of Daesh, of the Islamic State. So it makes it more complicated for the authorities to fight, since they have also the fight in North Sinai, which is very complicated and lasts for more than 4 years.
That was Alexandre Bouchanti reporting there from Cairo. Let's get a brief check of some other stories we're following for you here on France 24. State media in Zimbabwe is reporting that President Robert Mugabe is in Singapore for what's been described as a routine medical checkup. Well, it's the latest in what's understood to have been a series of medical trips to Singapore, the most recent of which was in May. The 93-year-old leader is expected to be back in Zimbabwe in the next couple of days. A major disaster. That is how the Somali government is describing a widespread internet outage, which is costing the country an estimated $10 million every single day. Various regions of the country are affected, including the capital Mogadishu, and it has even sparked angry protests. It's understood an undersea cable was cut by a commercial ship, and that caused the outage. And a 15% wage cut. The Kenyan government says that the salaries and allowances of top officials will be slashed, generating savings of more than $80 million per year. The cuts go all the way to the top and include the president. This announcement comes ahead of elections in just under 1 month from now. Kenyan civil servants are currently amongst the world's best paid. For several months now, the north of Morocco has been shaken by tensions. It was in the port city of Al-Hoceima in the Rif region of the country that the Al-Hirak al-Shabi protest movement began. That's a movement which demanded jobs, development and an end to corruption in the region. Well, the leader of that movement, Nasser Zafzafi, was arrested back in May, sparking more protests, calling for his release. Well, in the build-up to his trial, France 24's Shirley Sitbon takes a look back now at the main events in the region.
During summer vacation, Al-Hoceima looks like a dream seaside resort, and it is for tourists. For locals, it's a flashpoint of Morocco's social protests. It all began in the port in October with a tragic event. A fisherman was crushed in a rubbish truck while trying to retrieve fish confiscated from him. His death symbolized the difficulties faced by the population. Fishermen have seen their living conditions degrading in recent years. The quantity of fish they catch has dropped by half in the past 6 years. So have their earnings.
In 2009, our harbor had a fleet of 45 sardine fishing boats. Now in 2017, we only have 23.
Week after week, the protests spread to other cities in the Northern Rif region. People demand jobs, lower food prices, hospitals, an end to corruption, and the development of the region, which they say has been neglected. They created a group called Hirak. This man, Nasser Zafzafi, became their leader until he and other figures were arrested in May. Authorities say they were threatening national security.
They want lower prices, they want work, hospitals, and for prisoners to be released. These guys haven't done anything wrong at all. They were just saying the truth.
Authorities have tried to block the movement while pushing forward development plans. For now, protesters have put their action on hold, but they're waiting to see if Hirak leaders are freed before deciding how to move forward.
Now, fishing off the coast of Senegal and Mauritania can be a lucrative business, but also a hazardous one, especially for fishermen in smaller boats, which are in competition with much larger industrial-scale vessels. And that's forced them to have to venture further and further out to sea in search of a good catch. Well, with this level of marine traffic, collisions are becoming increasingly commonplace. France 24's Kyle Brown has this exclusive report.
On the beaches of Saint-Louis in the north of Senegal, Souleymane Sarr repairs one of his boats, which has been battered in the high seas. He and his crew go far for fish they used to find closer to shore.
Before there was fish, but now there's almost nothing left. That's why we take these risks, to go into these areas.
Venturing out some 40 kilometers has put Sarr and his crew in danger. 3 years ago, he escaped with his life after an industrial vessel crashed into his pirogue.
These boats fish illegally. They steal, they hit our boats, and sail away.
After the first collision, he clung onto scraps of the broken boat, drifting for days until he was rescued. And again, in February of this year, another of Sarr's boats was struck by a ship in Mauritanian waters moments after they had cast their nets. 5 of his men died. Local fishing groups have noted a rise in the number of artisanal boats colliding with industrial vessels, particularly at night. But collisions are occurring closer to shore, too. Doudou Sen inspects the x-rays of his leg. It was torn open in January when his pirogue was struck by what he says was a Russian vessel off the Mauritanian coast. His left arm was lifeless and would be amputated the next day. While in the water, Sen called out for his son Youssoufa. He never reappeared.
A man can only survive underwater for so long. After a certain amount of time, we knew he was dead.
Sen's family has been unable to get any information from the Mauritanian authorities on the vessels that were in the area at the time. The Ministry of Fisheries told France 24,
industrial vessels must remain outside the local fishing zone 20 nautical miles from the coast in the north and 13 miles in the south. It's strange that a pirogue fishing in the artisanal area should come into contact with industrial ships.
With limited state aid, families who have lost their breadwinners depend on community support. Fishermen donate part of their catch to people in need, including those struck by tragedy and on the verge of destitution.
And finally, following on from a meeting this weekend, UNESCO has announced a number of new heritage sites across the African continent, amongst them Mbanza, Congo, which between the 14th and 19th centuries was the capital of Congo Kingdom, which is now in modern-day Angola. Another city selected by the UN Cultural Agency, the Eritrean capital of Asmara, which is home to some unique architecture, and the Homani Desert area, which is close to South Africa's border with both Botswana and Namibia, which for thousands of years was home to nomadic peoples. That's also been added to this new list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And that brings us up to date with all the goings-on in Africa. Thanks for watching. Stay with us here on France 24.